Welcome back to another Reaper blog tutorial. This is what's new in Reaper 7.36. You're going to find great features for the big clock, the MIDI editor, recording, and more. Big Clock Plus supports displaying multiple customizable wildcard patterns, supports custom colors during recording, supports visual click border, a new customization dialog, and a bunch of new wildcards. All right, so we can find Big Clock Plus from the View menu. And it is a big clock indeed. I'm just going to undock it, and we can resize this as big as we want. So in this project, I've got a couple markers and I have a region. And if I want to customize the big clock, I can right-click and I get a bunch of options. So I can select different unit settings here. Set it to seconds, samples, hours, minutes, frames, right? And that can be different from my main transport up here, or my ruler setting, or I can just default it to the same as the ruler format. We have the full visual click, or just the border, like this. So whenever it's playing, you'll see a visual click. And that's going to, of course, follow your bars and beats grid. We have now extended display settings, and this is the customization dialog where we can choose different wildcards for each of these options. If we want to show anything, we just click on this, and it gets added to visibility. This is, of course, something you'd probably have on a second monitor for convenience. So local time, I can change local time to some other wildcard. So project information, any of the wildcards available, but there are some new ones here as well. Playing, stopped, recording, text. If you have the playing text and the stopped text and the recording text in here, like this wildcard string here, if it's not playing, it's not going to show that it's playing. But it will show that it's stopped, for example. The rectag wildcard is something we'll come back to later in this video. Just kind of want to show you that there are multiple strings. You can have up to 5 separate wildcard strings, all displaying at the same time. And you can even change the colors. So colors, custom text color, we can choose some different text color. Now that's your default text color. We can also change the color when it's recording. So customize, we can change this to go red, full red, and when this is recording, it goes red. It's pretty cool. And we can also change the background color to, let's go like half gray. There you go. And the same when you're recording, you can change that. There's also the recording tag is the rec tag option, and there is a convenient way to get to this from here. Personally, I'm not a big user of the big clock, but I have to admit these are really nice features, a great improvement for big clock, making it much more useful for the people that actually use it. Recording. Use rectag in default recorded file name wildcards. The default recorded file name is rectag track number track year, month, day, and hour, minute. Personally, I don't like having the year, month, and day in the file name. And I don't like having track number usually. I do find it useful to have something there. So I'm just going to add in project information, track name or number. So it gets a number if the track doesn't have a name. Makes things easy. And I will use the rectag option. It will just be blank if I'm not using the rectag. I can set it here. So I could set this to be something like alternate take. If I'm just trying something out. So it'll be rectag, track name or number, dash, and then I want to do usually recording pass or recording rec pass or rec number, rec pass n, and I can make this 00, I believe. as my starting number. No, 0, 1 is my starting number. So if I record on this track here and stop, this recorded file name is alternate take, because that was the rectag, and then vocal, which is the track name, and then the number 02 because I've already recorded once in this project already. So that number will just increment each time I record. And now that's 03. So rectag can also be set from the action list. If this is something that you're going to change a lot, so like this can be information that doesn't necessarily fit within, as I said before, the title and author section. It doesn't fit in your file name. It does in your project file name. It may not be something you want to add into your track names, especially if you have multiple tracks that you are recording simultaneously, or over the course of an afternoon, you don't want to have to keep changing that. Setting the rectag gets information into your file names. It also shows in the big clock, like I said before. We can clear that project recording tag, and we can set that, get information about the like song section or whatever we're working on. It makes more sense to put it in with a wildcard rather than manually editing every file, every track name, or some other method. Meters. Support track gain reduction meters by default for new tracks. Support theme images for track gain reduction meters. So Recomp is a plugin, comes with Reaper, that supports gain reduction meter. So I will need some sort of file. Yeah, something like that. And I'll just turn that down. And you can see here that there's this yellow bar for gain reduction, and it goes downward because it's gain reduction. So yeah, that's now enabled by default. You don't need to click in here and go to meters and then display gain reduction for plugins that support it. You don't need to set that manually for each track. It's now there by default. And as well, if you are a theme creator, you can now create your own theme files for the gain reduction meter. Region Marker Manager. Support displaying take markers in selected items only. Regions and markers. Add actions to show, hide all, or selected project regions and/or markers. Support hiding markers regions from ruler via Region Marker Manager. Support opening Region Marker Manager from Marker Edit dialog. All right, so Marker Edit, Edit Marker. And now within this window, we can open up the Marker Manager. Pretty sweet. We don't have to go up to the View menu anymore. Yeah, so we can show and hide markers from this list now, which is pretty sweet. Let's also add in some take markers. I'm just going to add in a take marker. Clever name like take marker 1. Okay, set selected items only. The take markers will not be shown unless the item is selected. Wildcards. Add time, local time, date time string wildcards. Add time sig full, time sig num, time sig denom wildcards. Track item wildcard resolves to active take name of currently playing media item on selected track. Add actions to set or reset rec pass to recording settings wildcard. Store separate lists of recent wildcard patterns per calling context. Render, big clock, metadata, etc. Support project length for big clock and metadata. Support project recording tag rectag. Rescript. Support getting setting project recording tag rectag. That's stuff that we've pretty much looked at already, just noting that there's several new wildcards. MIDI Editor. Add support for Poly Aftertouch CC lane, which follows note selection. Add native CC velocity lane preset support. Right-click on lane controls divider. Add option to auto-filter CCs based on note selection, useful for editing MPE content. Allow reordering velocity CC lanes via drag and drop of header. Add option for snap to use visible grid. Add option to display project time as hours, minutes, seconds, frames in ruler. Add action to select notes at mouse time position. Add action to load save CC velocity lane preset, save default CC lanes. Add option to control whether default CC lanes are saved automatically on MIDI Editor close. Changing note display rectangles, triangles, diamonds affects all MIDI items on the same track. Improve velocity lane editing behaviors. Limit horizontal zoom range to reasonable values. Move time format for ruler from options to view menu. So Polyphonic Aftertouch data can now be displayed properly within REAPER. So this is great. So thank you, Jeremy, for supplying some MIDI files for me. This is, I'm not sure what he recorded this on, but probably like a Rolly seabed or something like that, where there's individual note pressure that is captured. And within Reaper's MIDI editor, you can now see it and edit it and add more based on the note. So we just have to have the CC lane set to Poly Aftertouch. So he originally sent me this setup for Surge XT, great free synth. And the Poly Aftertouch is assigned to filter cutoff. Here's how that sounds. Rather than just like this big chunky chord of these like 8 notes, each note kind of comes in and out. Tal Uno LX, this is a paid synth, but if we just turn on the MPE button and turn up the velocity all the way, velocity MPE volume, now each note has its own sort of volume control. Now, just for an example, without MPE, so you get a lot more expression from your keyboard with a synth that's compatible with MPE. And you have this Polyphonic Aftertouch data. I've got another project that Jeremy sent. Now this one is, again, Surge XT, and the oscillator pitch is linked to Polyphonic Aftertouch. I modified his MIDI a little bit here. So each of these notes has a different pitch bend value. And here's how it sounds. Just an example of the Polyphonic Aftertouch being linked to pitch bend, and it's pitch bending each note individually. Not something you can really do with a normal keyboard. One of the strengths of those more expressive keyboards capable of MPE or Polyphonic Aftertouch. All right, so the CC presets that's new in this update. You do it on this little divider here. So set lane with events, velocity, there's off velocity and poly aftertouch. You can set a lane from here. So instead of having to click this little plus button or the big menu, you can set it from this right-click menu. The ones that have data will be shown here in this little list, but you can also add different lanes here as well. So text events, that's going to add that above. Drag and drop reordering is now available. So whatever one is at the bottom, you can drag. Dragging downward doesn't seem to work, but dragging up works. Oh yeah, so we could set this up so that it's mod wheel, velocity, and let's also add pitch. Oops, that changed it to pitch. I wanted to add pitch. Pitch, off velocity. No, we want this to be mod wheel. And let's put velocity at the top. Okay. Clicking here, I can go to save CC velocity lane preset. Let's do vel pitch mod. Save. All right, so if I close these and then right click here, load preset, that's going to bring back those 3 CC lanes. Pretty cool. Snap to visible grid. So you're going to find this new option enabled by default. And if you right click on the snap icon, the little magnet, snap to visible grid on or off. So let's turn it off. And so my grid setting is 1/16, but what I'm actually seeing here is quite a bit smaller. So if I click here, I can kind of click between lines. And sometimes it looks like it's right on the grid, but sometimes it's not actually on the grid. And so if I was trying to target 26.3 as my starting point, because I'm not snapping to the visible grid, sometimes I'll misclick. A lot of people don't like that. So snap to visible grid. If I'm zoomed out here, I'm seeing 1/8 notes roughly. If I zoom in, you know, it's snapped right to that correctly. So you can keep a small grid size like 16th note, and then based on your zoom amount, you're putting in quarter notes, whole notes. I'm zoomed out this far, a double click. It still does a 16th note because it's based on my grid size. But those drag edits, they feel much faster when you're zoomed out. That mainly it just feels faster when you're zoomed out. You're gonna hit the target more often. You're not going to be like a 16th note off when you're trying to hit the bar line, things like that. Limit horizontal zoom range to reasonable values. This seems pretty great. If I zoom out here, it's not going to go out like a million, like infinitely, like the timeline, you know, 77 hours. It's not going to do that in the MIDI editor anymore. It's going to be a reasonable zoom out amount based on the contents. And now you're all caught up on what's new in Reaper 7.36. This is a great update. If you missed any of the previous update videos, there's a playlist link down below going all the way back to Reaper 5.0. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me on Facebook and Blue Sky. You can support the Reaper blog through YouTube membership and Patreon, and find more tutorials at reaper.blog. Thank you so much.